All right, welcome to Stocks and Squats. My name is Jermaine Russell, and I am here to do a review of the stocks that I traded back on June 23rd, 22nd, last week. What was last week? Oh, sorry. June 22nd to June 26th. I did a couple of trades during that week, probably a little bit more than I typically would like to do. Well, actually, how many stocks did I traded? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 different stocks that I traded. Um, and I believe that out of all of them, I probably only lost on three, maybe four of them. Um, which wasn't too bad, out of all the stocks that I traded. So I did have a pretty good week last week, and I anticipate going into a little bit more in depth about how um, that happened. But I want to specifically just go over the trades themselves. So we're going to start with the very first trade, which is PHCF, and this is one of those stocks that if you looked in the previous videos, you would see that there was a couple of stocks called UONCF. There was CARV. There was a couple of low floater stocks that were just moving, and just moving like exponentially. Like I'm talking about from $2 to $30 or $40. And the biggest thing that I saw that they had a commonality, I'm going to do a video on that, is their EMAs. And the EMAs was the one thing that brought them to a price point that was a lot higher than where it really started, right? Um, so I got that with this stock, PHCF. Granted, there was not a lot that I knew about it. First and foremost, I knew it was dealing with finances because it's a wealth and investment company, but it's also a Chinese company. And the biggest thing when it comes to the Chinese companies is that a lot of times if they're trading at this price with such a low float, they're very sketchy. So you don't really want to stay in too long because you really typically don't know what's going to happen. Even though technically it might have like some type of feel that hey, this is something I should trade. But at the same time, depending on if you want to hold it overnight, it's not always the best bet. So as you can see, the stock has been going flat for ever since it's been open back in the beginning of 2019. It opened up at the end of 2018. This is 2019 to 2020, and this is where we're at. So it's been pretty much just trading flat. And now that it's been trading flat, you see that the EMAs, the red line is the 200 EMA, the yellow line is the 100 EMA, and the green line is the 50 EMA. So when you have these EMAs, they're exponential moving averages. When you have them converge in such a way, it does give the stock an opportunity to spike, and this is what I've been seeing lately. And I'm not saying that this is a guaranteed 100% that this is going to happen, but this is what I've been seeing lately. So I ended up buying this one on, I think this was Thursday, and I'm sorry for the late video. Typically, I usually have these out on a Sunday, reviewing what I traded, but couldn't this time. A lot of yoga training, so I'm very blessed for that. But essentially, I bought this stock in the after hours, which is also another thing I've been doing. I've been buying stock in the after hours based on either the news and the movement. This one didn't have any real news that suggested why to even hold on to the stock after the market opens. There's nothing there. Pretty much they had a whole bunch of volatility halts, which lets me know that this stock can run and it can have that price action because of those volatility halts. And so when I bought this, in the after hours, I was actually anticipating it coming down to the 200 EMA because I like to see a price come back to the 200 EMA after it spiked up so much. But once it started to come down, it was starting to level off here. So this $5 area is really where I should have bought. So I bought this a little bit too soon at 540. So I could have waited just a little bit more, because this is where the last this is where support really was. It was in this 490-ish area. So it went there and then it bounced up, and then once it bounced up, it continued to kind of hold into the pre-market the next day. So I decided to sell once it got up to 6 in the pre-market hours on Thursday, because it was just, it didn't have any news. There was nothing else that I could really suggest on why, I should hold it. And also, the EMA, the 50 EMA on the intraday chart. Now, I just want to remind you, when you have the EMAs, you have to layer them between the year chart and the minute chart, because on the minute chart is typically where you want to buy, but on the year chart it gives you that idea of where you are really buying in the total grand scheme of things. So, which is the entire lifetime of the stock, right? So with this one, because I wasn't seeing any other type of indication that it would go higher or go past this 620-ish area. The 50 EMA on the intraday chart was crossing below the 200 EMA. It was coming back. It was like you could see that here it just wasn't doing it. And I said, you know what? Instead of me holding and hoping, let me just take my profits. It was 60 cents a share. Yep, that's New York for you. So it was 60 cents a share of a profit. I would take that off of 200 shares. And then after that, it just started to collapse, right? But as you can see, and I ended up buying this on my smaller account, on my Robinhood account. So I ended up buying this, before the market closed, and this is something I'll probably go over later on for next week. But this is just, you're not going to see which sucks. Like, that's the one thing about, doing these video lessons and then, trading on a different platform like Robinhood, is that you can't see the buy-in and sell points. But essentially, I bought this, I think it was at 550. No, it wasn't 5. It was 6 something, and I sold it at 7 something. I don't remember. It just happened today, like Monday, 6/29. I really just want to go over what I traded last week. So this will be something I will reserve for this upcoming week. But even we see in the after hours, we see it's at $6. It's sketchy. It closed at $8 a share, and what happened in the after hours? It went down to 6, right? And then technically, when you look at the technical chart pattern, when you have something like this means that it's supposed to gap up, and then the preparation right now looks like it's going to come down. So this is going to be just something just to watch, particularly going into the next day. So that is PHCF. I want to go over SHLL. No, I didn't buy this one. This is one I wanted to buy, and this will also be on the next video lesson, because I didn't buy it, and it's doing the same EMA stuff. Low float, 29 million shares. That's relatively low float, not like ideal, like 10 or 15 million shares, but relatively low float. But I'll get into this one. This one I did not trade at all. I wish I did. Knowing what I know, you see what it did today on Monday. Went up to almost $35 a share. After I saw it last week, it was in the 17s. I didn't think it was going to go any higher like that. But there's been some companies, some shell companies, that have been moving recently, and I don't get why, but they have been. So this is not something that I've actually traded this past week, like I said. Clean Spark, this was one that I held over the weekend. So I bought it on Friday, and when I bought it on Friday, I bought it at 265, and then I bought it into the close actually. So, and then I sold it at 319. And the crazy thing about this one is that I was actually in the shower waiting for it to pop up after, when the pre-market happened. because I was getting ready for yoga training, and then this stock started to move. It wasn't starting to move, actually. It was still like around the 290s area, and like I said, I bought at 265 on that Friday. So let's go back. So I bought it a couple of times. I wanted to get some nice shares in, so I got into 260s. I wish I got in that 250 area, but I didn't. But I was like, every time it dips right around this 200 EMA, I want to buy some shares. So that's what I did. I ended up buying some shares of it. Let's go to the hour chart, because I think the hour chart can give you a little bit more idea of how it moves. So it tends to spike a lot, right? It will spike, then come back down, spike, then come back down, spike, come back down. There's no real good news here, other than they announced some off-grid software development, and I think it's all in California. And this was on the 23rd, so it wasn't like on that Friday when I bought it. So when I bought it, it was pretty much just moving off the same momentum that it was moving from before. It's a low float, 9 million shares, and as you can tell, it had like micro spikes in between these 3 spikes previous, and then the spike back here. You can even see I tried trading it back over here before, and it didn't do what I wanted, and I sold out. I lost 12 cents a share. Well, this time I bought, and I wish I sold it. Like I said, I was in the shower when I was getting out. It was at 320 or 330, going back up to 345, and I was looking at this 320 area, and I said, wow, since it's like above 320, maybe it can hold, and it wasn't holding. So now you see that it's spiked up here, really up closer to 350 or 3, the late 340s. So it was holding. It hit this resistance, broke through it. It hit that 320 resistance, broke through it, because resistance level there, resistance level here. This one is a little indiscriminate, but you get the point now. So when we go into the minute chart, we look on the minute chart, and we see it even retested that 350. I didn't even see this. I was doing pranayama at this point. But like, essentially, the stock went up here in the pre-market, and as you can see, like there's a couple of things here. First and foremost, it was trading over the VWAP. The VWAP is a really, really good technical indicator, right? The volume weighted average price. So this is what the average price and the volume, they do their calculation, and that's this statistical analysis here. So essentially it spiked up, and then once it spiked up, it started to pull back. And this is something that you'll see like around 7 a.m. every pre-market mover. If right now at least, right? Because the market does change. You just try to evolve with it. So right now, if I'm buying overnight, buying in the after hours, and I want to hold overnight, which also you don't have to worry about using a day trade when you do an overnight trade. So with this, I'm looking at, okay, maybe once 7 a.m. comes, start looking for the stock to start moving. So that's what it did. It went up to almost $3 here, pulled back, and then it went back up again like 30 minutes later, and went up to this. I was in the shower, so I missed the run up. I could have sold into strength. And if we look at what was going on, not just on the price action, but also on the MACD, we see that it's hit its mark. It hit its mark where not only was it overbought, but the momentum was starting to fade. And this is the point where it's now you need to start looking to sell. And that's what I did. I sold at 319. I should have sold in the 330s. I should already have my price in already, and I didn't put my price in already just because I was still in the shower. So like, I missed out. I was not prepared to sell at once that time came. I thought it was just going to start jumping up once the market opened, but the time came during the pre-market to sell. I didn't sell until like 20 cents later, and then it started coming back down. And what did it do? It came back near the 200 EMA. This is why the 200 EMA is so super important, because it gives you an idea of your level of resistance, a level of support. When you see that a price can come all the way down to an average price, which is that 200 EMA, gives you a general idea of how, you know, where you could lose your profits, right? And I wasn't trying to lose this profit. This is what, about 50 cents a share, maybe 60. No, 12 was 32, and then 19. Yeah, that's about 50, 51, 52 cents, right, off of 400 shares. So it's not like this is something that, it was incredibly hard. And mind you, this stock could possibly go tomorrow, but it traded 3 times its volume, 3 times its float. Its float is 9 million shares, and it traded 28 million shares on the day. So I don't 100% know what it can do on Tuesday, but as an overnight hold, it was great to have. If I look at it really good, maybe, it's overbought now. The momentum is starting to look strong. Well, maybe it covers this gap up to $5. I don't know. So I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that I was able to capture my 5% and get out, and that's all I wanted. And I was able to start my day, go do my yoga with no issues, because yoga is healing, especially for kind of work, because you really need to be like, you need to really have some type of centeredness when you're dealing with any type of stress like this. So next, I'm looking at AEY. AEY, another low float, 10 million. Advantage Technology, something, whatever. The technicals are saying that, hey, it can spike, and it spiked before, and it can spike again. And I believe that it will spike again probably tomorrow. This was another stock that I held overnight. I held this stock and CLSK overnight from Friday into Monday. That's why I'm talking about them now. So with this one, I only bought 100 shares because I wasn't really 100% sure how I felt about it, because at the time the MACD was still trying to strengthen its momentum, and the momentum was saying that it was selling off the shares, but because it was selling off the shares, that's why I only bought 100 shares. And in hindsight, I should have bought a whole bunch more, because not only did I get in at a really good price, it gapped up, and it gapped up to, like, what did it gap up to? It was 360, not 360. No, it went up to 360 today in the after hours. See, this is another reason why I feel like it can still go up. I got in at 302, and it got up to 344. Maybe I should have bought like 200 more shares. I'm not 100% sure. I ended up selling this like right when the market was open. That's right. I was in the middle of pranayama at this point. I was like, you know what? Let me get rid of this, because I don't feel like it's going to hold. But I thought it was going to come back down to the 314s. And I'm at the point now with my trading that, if when it shows me what it shows me, I'm going to take it. I don't want to hold on and then hope that it's going to go in my direction. As I'll show you in another trade with APT and AHPI, I was holding and hoping with those two, and I end up losing $200 on those stocks. So now with AEY, we're looking at the EMAs, right? Even though it was trading near and above the VWAP, the EMAs was still like thinning through, so it was still giving it an opportunity to push the stock up higher. I just didn't have the patience on this one. And yeah, this might sound a little bit different in thought when it comes to CLSK, where it was trading above the VWAP, but I sold because it was starting to come back down, or it was hitting its max point on the RSI and the MACD. Here with AEY, it wasn't hidden. It already like went through its cycle, right? So in the pre-market, it was up, and you could see the momentum. It was strong, and then we see here with the MACD that it was starting to pull back, and then these two lines were going below the x-axis. Typically, when these two lines go below the x-axis, that means it's going to start. The stock will go through a movement of downside. So I was anticipating that, hey, this potentially could go all the way down, and the RSI was showing that too. But little did I know that it was going to hold support above that 320-ish area, and that it did. So I could have probably sold this too soon, because as we see that it gapped up today and it held green. So maybe on Tuesday, this stock could possibly go higher. You know, it could possibly go higher because we just saw in after hours, like it had a price of 360. So sometimes the price in after hours will get retested the very next day during the pre-market or when the market opens, and then we can see if the stock holds above that. But there's another thing about this stock too when it comes to the EMAs, is that we see that the 50, the green line, is above the yellow line, which is the 100, which is above the red line, which is the 200. And if you know anything about that, typically what happens is that when you have the 50, 100, and the 200 in that type of order, the stock starts to run, and it can run higher. So we see it over a course of how many days? We can even go back here from January 28th, from the 28th to its highest on the 25th. That's almost a month where it was just running, and before it found any downside, so we could say 3 weeks, and it did it. So this is something that I absolutely love. Other than this EMA hack, like I said, I will do a video on that. I love when the EMAs have some type of separation between each other, and the 50 is above the 100 and the 100 is above the 200. So that's AEY. Like I said, it could possibly go up to 4. Maybe it'll test that 440 area, because this is kind of resistance there, and then we have some resistance here and here, so maybe it can go higher. I don't know. I took my measly shares and ran. LLIT, this one I had to sell. It wasn't doing what I wanted. I was hoping that it would spike like it did before, right here. As you can tell with the 50, 100, and 200, EMA is spiked before coming back down. I absolutely love that, but this wasn't doing it. This pretty much sucked. And maybe it might do something later, but the MACD is saying that it's going to go into some selling pressure. The RSI is still kind of holding steady, just above the strength of bought. So maybe it might go a little bit higher, but right now I'm not liking it, and we'll see what I did on that day when I traded it. I think I held this for a couple of days, come to think of it, because I really wanted it to do something. So I bought it after it spiked here, and I could have waited for it to come down to this 200 EMA, which was around 75 cents, and then at least I would have been in a better predicament or a better situation. But as we can tell here, that after it spiked or bounced off the 200 EMA, it tested its previous resistance, really like right around here, at 83 cents before exponentially going down. And then when it came down, it took the 50 EMA with it. The 50 EMA crossed below the 200 EMA, and you can see the price go down. And this is a very common thing. So anytime when I start seeing the 50 start going towards the VWAP, I start getting nervous, because I know if the stock is trading above the VWAP, but none of the EMAs are above the VWAP except for the 50, then the 50 is eventually going to go to the 100 and then go to the 200. Like I said, I will show you on APT AHPI. It's kind of damn near the same thing. And pretty much did the same thing. And also, I don't like stocks that are really trading under $1. Very rare. I'll probably pick one stock a week just to see if it actually works, but I still don't like I'm not comfortable with it. I feel like there's a little bit more manipulation that happens with these stocks that are under $1. So I tried with this one. I sold losing 50 cents, and as you can tell, the 50 EMA was below the 200 EMA. Once that happened, the stock is going lower, and that's what it did. You know, there was no reason for me to even bother with this at this point, right? It's going to go lower, and from then it just really never spiked. So this was, that's a good lesson in itself right there. Once that 50 crosses below the 200, there's nothing much that you can do, right? It's just going to go lower. So let's go on to the next one, BBGI. BBGI, I had some hope with this one. It definitely just didn't do what I thought it was going to do, as I've been looking for these stocks that are closer to EMAs as of late, because I can tell that they start to move a little bit higher. And because they're moving a lot higher now, because of it just gave me some ideas that it can do something. So I ended up buying this at $3.98. I should have sold it the minute I bought it, because I ended up losing 40 cents on it. 48 cents. Sorry. So I lost 48 cents on this one, mainly just because I was stubborn at that point. I think, my stubbornness actually kicked in, and like I said, I'll show you that my same stubbornness with APT. But the APT pissed me off. That's why I can't wait to get to it. But this is one of those stocks that, like, after I bought it and I saw it hit, I bought it here before the market closed. But this was last week Friday, going into Monday, and so with this, I saw it like spike up, and then it came and tested this resistance, but it was selling it off. And as you can tell, even by the MACD, that the selling pressure was starting to become overbearing. So we see these candlesticks here, and these candlesticks really, it fooled me. I really thought that it was going to test here, then go higher and test up here to 430. What it did test was this 410 area, and then from there it just went downhill. And I really did think that it was going to go higher. And because this stock, because I'm doing this video lesson late, essentially you won't be able to see that far back. At least I don't think we'll be able to see that far back on a real minute chart. No. So you see, I sold it in the pre-market. That's the most we can see on the minute chart. But at same thing with the minute chart, you see that, well, this is 2 minutes, right? Over the past 5 days, you see that the candlesticks, or the EMA, is trading below the 200 EMA. So the 200, 100, then 50, the stock is going to go lower. If it was the reverse, then the stock would have went higher, but it's not even trying to do that. So it went down lower. I lost my 39 cents a share, 40 cents a share, whatever. And that was just me not able to recognize the resistance that was forming. The resistance formed here at this 440 area, and it just wasn't going any higher, right? It was the resistance there, fake out breakout, fake out breakout, fake out breakout, resistance. So there was a fake out breakout and some resistance there. So yeah, this was not happening. So for this lesson, it's really identifying not only where the resistance level is, but also if don't be fooled by a fake out breakout, and don't hold on to any stubbornness, because that's what it did. And then that's what BBGI, and I don't think it's going to do anything anytime soon either, as it's like really gapped down since that buy. And I bought it, like, this is another thing, like on the year chart, Like typically, I would want these closer, like the EMAs closer. The only reason why I even bought AEY, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't AEY. Which one was it? Was it SKL? Yeah, it was SKSK, CLSK. Like, I don't know what's going on. And the reason why I bought CLSK is because, you know, this candlestick was definitely one above the 50 EMA, and then two, it it crossed it crossed its resistance above that 240 area. Where in BBGI, you know, it didn't even. I bought it because I said, oh, it spiked before, you know, maybe it will continue to spike after engulfing this previous candlestick, and that was not the case. So I had to sell the very next day. So this was, you know, even though these are two different types of stocks, you know, it also, you know, this EMA, this shows some significance here, where, you know, like, hey, if this was a lot closer, I could see if this EMA at price at 568 was closer to the EMA, the 200 EMA. What was the 200 EMA? 200 EMA is at 275. Is at 275. Then I would have more than likely held it probably a little bit longer, just because I feel like it could spike up exponentially. But right here, I still don't think it's gonna go past. Like, it'll go up to 568, you know, barring any short selling or any disturbing market news. But essentially, I don't know how much higher it can go. Maybe it'll go to 12. I don't know. I still don't know with that one. But it's just interesting how, you know, even though the EMA, the 200 EMA is separated so far from the 50 EMA, and it still went higher, where the 200 EMA on BBGI was so much closer to the other EMAs, and it still couldn't break out to go higher. It did before, right? It did it. It went from twos to the fives, and then it got slammed back down. So maybe it'll do that again, or it'll do that with CLSK. Why am I having the hardest time with that? CLSK. Yeah, so I bought this one, MCRB. Bought it last week Friday, I believe, as well, with BBGI. This was pretty. No, I didn't. When did I buy you? I bought you on what, two? No, yeah, I held a little bit longer. So I did buy it on a Friday, and I held it a little bit longer for a couple more days. I thought it was going to break. It didn't. You see the patterns. This is horrible. Like it just wasn't doing. Like, let's go to the year chart again. The year chart, I still believe it can have some upside, just because the selling pressure looks like it's trying to be done with. The 50 is over the 100 and the 200 EMA. It had a previous spike that caused that crossover of the 50 EMA over the other moving averages, and then the eventual pullback because it was overbought, not once but twice. The buying pressure or buying momentum started to slow down. Now it's in selling momentum. And now we just need to see if these candlesticks are going to produce any buying power. Right now it's 2 consecutive red days. Typically, I would think that a green candlestick would come, but at the same time, the way that this candlestick is kind of forming, I'm not 100% sure. It could still come down to like 450, 446, 440. So it's going to be in this little range between $4.40 and $5 probably before it can really break out. But it has to get this selling pressure off, and I just did not. I wish I was, you know, smarter. I wish I was smarter on this one. Like, yeah, you can't even see where I really bought. You see where I sold though. You see where I sold, because I was just tired of it. Bought it at 5, sold it at 4.92. Got rid of it. As you can tell, what was it doing? The EMA, 50 EMA, crossing below the 100 and the 200. Time to let it go. Nothing else. Like, what else are you going to do? Are you going to hold this on for what? No reason to hold that on. You know, just cut your loss and be out. ALT. This was a good one. This was a good one to hold. I think this was a Thursday into Friday. Um, it is a reverse split stock too. Like it had a reverse split a couple of yeah, back in September. Oh, near my birthday! Yay! So anyway, but in September it had a reverse split. So typically I don't like reverse splits, but this one was starting to do some good things. Technically, it had this one candlestick here. I bought and sold on the same day. I was going to hold it into the next day, but I was talked out of it by a fellow trader. She reminded me that I do like to be greedy sometimes on these trades. So I am very grateful for that. This is why we all need people in our lives to keep us in check, and that's what she did. So this stock on Thursday, yeah, it was Thursday going into Friday. Uh, I saw it like starting to make some moves, right? And typically, if you go into like your trading app and there's a scanner for pre-market or after-hour movers or post-market movers, you can find like what stocks are up. And that's what I did with this one. I found that this stock was up. I just waited for it to pull back. I wasn't sure if it was going to pull back to the 200 EMA. It didn't. It found support at this 960 area. I bought at 980. And then it was just starting to ramp up. I originally wanted to sell in the 13s because I thought it could get the 13, which it did today. Pre-market got up to 13, but I would have had to hold through all of this downside in the 10s. And being that I bought at 980, I definitely didn't want to hold another dollar area range. I was like, nah, forget that. So I almost sold for $2 a share. Sold for $1.70, 30 cents. I don't know. Like I sold it higher, right? That's my biggest thing is just making sure I always sell higher than where I bought it. Um, so I did that, and that's where we're at right now with this stock. And it was typically, the reason why I even went up to $13 today is because it got some funding from the Department of Defense. So, you know, I knew something was up, just didn't know what was going on, and I didn't get a chance to even look back at this. But if I even got a chance to look at it pre-market, I still would have missed it because you see how fast and hard it ran up, and then it closed at $18 or 18 cents in the negative. So that still wouldn't have been, the news alone wasn't strong enough to hold it above the green. APYX, APYX. Yeah, not a great trade. I think this could have been a whole lot better. You can see from the setup already, the 50 is below the 100 and is below the 200. Off jump. I should have just left this alone. This is not a setup that I typically like, right? But there was a reason why I ended up getting in, and it was because of this little gap up here. I bought at $7.05. Where did I sell it at? Sold it at $6.10. So this was off of some type of stubbornness. I don't know why I even bought this, right? So let's see. What did I do? What did I do wrong here? I bought this in the after hours. That was one, which is fine. I bought in the after hours. I did not recognize the crossover from the 50 down to the 100 to the 200. I waited way too long. So once there is this resistance at $7, looking at the level 2, you should have just seen it. There's a lot of resistance here. Even though it gapped up and it went higher, I could probably even sold. No, I bought up on the run up. So that's one error there. The biggest error is that I bought. Let's see if I can zoom this in. I bought after it already ran up, right? If I bought down here in the sixes, maybe 610, 620, and then it ran up, then I was like, all right, that's better. But what I did is I bought at the whole dollar amount at 7, and thinking that, oh yeah, it's gonna go higher, and I didn't, and it didn't. So what I could have did was just look at the support a little bit better, right? Because it's supported right where that gap was, and then from there determine if I wanted to buy it or not. And then from there, do I want to sell into the run up? Because if I bought in the sixes, if I had sold, I could have sold at 780, maybe even 760, and been out $1.50 a share, right? But I didn't. I ended up losing $1, roughly $1, roughly. That's probably still, the average price of that was probably still like $7.05, and this would have been, $6.10. So that's still about 95 cents or so. So either way, I sold way too late, and then once again, hold on, this was Monday. That was Tuesday. This had to have been last week. That don't make any sense. What happened? What day was this? This was the 22nd. Yeah, so this was last week Monday. Sorry. So last week Monday, I bought it after hours and then sold it in the pre-market on that Tuesday. And, I just needed to recognize that it was not breaking this resistance whatsoever. And the 50 EMA was starting to come. Even if I had seen it here, I could have got out a whole lot sooner. All right, I could have saved a whole lot more cash here. But I failed to ignore the 50 EMA. APT, here we are. Hold up, before we get to that, let me just see if there's any other, like I know, all right, let me just real quick, because I really want to get the APT and AHPI. CTIB, what did I do on you? What did I do? Yeah, this was a bad one too, right? So I should go over, even though it was 50 shares, I should probably go over that one as well. I know I got majority of my money back on a lot of these stocks, like this one, ARYA. It's a shareholder company, and a shareholder company. It's a acquisition company. I bought and I sold, held it over the what was it, Thursday to what day was this? Yeah, I held it from that Friday into Monday. So this is another stock that I held over the weekend. I'm not going into that one because that was a win, right? I don't want to go over that. EKSO, I bought at 10.20, sold at 11.20. You see this wide ass gap right here? That wide ass gap is the same as CLSK. This is wide ass gap. So, but for some odd reason, it did the damn thing and went up higher, and you see it pulled back, right? Well, we know why it did the damn thing. You read the news, you'll see why it did the damn thing. I said CBLI already. No, I didn't. I didn't say CBLI. What did I do on CBLI? That was a good move. Let's see. You did what? Oh, yeah, that's right. I sold you way too soon. I was fucking patient on this one. I was super impatient. This is a good one to look at. So CBLI, so impatient. I could have sold this. It was doing everything. It's not like the EMAs. Let's just zoom in a little bit on this one. So we see that one, I bought it back here. I was starting to buy it back here because I saw that it was starting to make some movement, right? And this was around the $2 area or so. So I was the low twos. So I was starting to see making some movements, and then it went up, didn't sell it. And I remember seeing this like, damn, why didn't I sell it? I think this was, and I was getting ready. I was actually in practice right now. I was practicing yoga at this point. And I was like, yo, I need a, I bought it. I saw it. 10:30 is a good time to buy stocks because usually the selling, whatever happened after the market opened. The market is open. Whatever happened. Now the stocks are starting to settle in their prices. And once they start settling in their prices, it can show some strength, and that's what it did. I bought perfectly here, right? And then it pulled back. I started to feel like buyer's remorse at a point, like, oh, why did I hold on to this? Why didn't I just sell it? So I didn't sell it, and then I was just like, oh, it's going to come back to the 200 EMA, and 200 EMA is at 230. I don't want to do that. And I saw it here. I was looking right here, and I said, you know what? I don't know. And it was coming to, you know, it looked like the momentum was starting to die off, and back here it was, but over here, I don't think I was paying attention to here. I was just looking at the candlesticks and thinking that it was coming back down. Literally, next candlestick pops up, and then after that, it runs to 5 or to 469. Horrible, 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 horrible. This is something that I could have avoided all the way, by just staying patient. I chose not to be patient. I chose to to sell this stock, and I only got 5 cents a share out of it. But it's just funny, you know, when you see that your impatience runs thin, is because you're not paying attention to certain indicators, and these were the indicators I weren't paying attention to. Probably the most important ones, right? Because everything else was running just fine. Like, it was trading above the VWAP. Yeah, you know, it might have pulled back here, but it was still above the MACD. It was above the x-axis on the MACD, most importantly, and the RSI was still in buying territory, buying strength. So I don't get why, other than I was in the middle of trying to practice yoga and not trying to focus on this stock, but I missed out on this big time. This was a big time miss, which is fine. So let's go to the last two, because I think after that, everything else was pretty much peachy clean. Or I spoke about everything else. APT. Why? That's all I got to say. This was a stock that I should have. Look, off top. You see it already, right? You see it already. You see this shit already, right? 1917 ran up 2060. Should have been out at 2050 if anything, right? Ran up, even pulled back. It was like, you know what? You didn't get it the first time. How about again? Hold on. I'm bugging. Let me go back one. Let me go real quick. Where did I buy you? I bought you at 17. Wait. Oh, that's right. I bought you twice. I forgot. So I bought it at 1782. Then I sold it at 1917. So I did that right. That I did 100% right. Next trade. What did I do wrong? Alright, so it's freezing up on me a little bit. What did I do wrong when I bought back in? First and foremost, when I bought back in, I didn't wait for it to come back to the 200 EMA. I got too greedy, and it dropped. It went from this 1970 area to 1882. I could have left it alone. Then what happened after that? Next day, instead of selling it at this 2030 area and say, you know what, let me be out, something happened with the market. I still forgot what happened. I did not get a chance to go back after all this yoga training, and I should go back and see what happened in the news. But essentially, the stock pulled back heavy. I forgot if it was some ruling or something happened. I just don't know what the details were. When it pulled back, it popped back up, right? I bought some more. I should have sold for my loss. I could have just went for a 20-cent loss, but I bought some more thinking that it was going to go higher, thinking that the 50 EMA was going to cross over the 100 and 200 EMA. But even though this, which is the trading price, did, the 50 EMA did not, and it did it twice, right? It went to even to 1930, and and then from there it just kept on going back down. So I ended up selling at 1856. I pretty much just gave back whatever I earned, like, and then some. Right? It was like $1.20 a share. So that was horrible. That was a horrible stock to like jump right back in after earning profits from. Like I didn't have to deal with that at all. But you know, that's where my own greed and my own behavioral patterns came into play. I'm kind of actually tired of looking at APT because it screwed me a couple times, and I'm thinking that now I figured it out, and I still didn't figure it out. So yeah, just leaving that one alone. Just leaving that one alone for the time being. AHPI kind of did the same thing. Um, have the same similar chart. I just failed to sell when it went higher, when it went up to the 14s. And it was trading pretty rapidly too. I'm tired. I'm getting tired. I could tell. I can hear it in my voice. So I'm trying to really like, because this is the last stock, really, right? It was that and the yeah, and CTIB. So AHPI, like I said, I ended up same day. These were the same days with AHPI and APT, right? You can tell I muffled it here on this upturn, going downward. It just was not working for me. And then the same thing here. Like, even though I bought where it's near the support, I could have sold the very next day, right when the market opened at 1460 if I wanted to. It went up to 1480-ish, right? But I didn't. I said, oh, it's going to go higher. And it didn't. It was already overbought on the hour chart. Everything else was saying no. And this thing happened. The same thing with APT. They both happened on that Thursday. I don't know. It's just not happening, right? It was just not happening with these two biotech stocks that are both COVID related, by the way. So, for me, their price action does not work for me, or it did not work for me, even though I thought it would. I even held it for a day, holding and hoping, which is not a strategy. I lost $1.30-ish a share. I'm glad I only took out like 100 shares on it because I was already like nervous on it from the jump. But I could have just taken, I could have had $1 a share versus giving back $1 and then some a share back to the market. So that was a good education for me to say, what, just take your profits because in this market environment, don't really know what's going to happen. Things get a little tricky, things get a little sketchy. So I don't know. Even on the long-term chart, let me see. It does. Well, it was doing everything that I like. It had the 50, the 100, and the 200. But like I said, it's not an exact science. We think that the stock is going to go higher when it hits some of our rules, and when it doesn't, or it doesn't hit like our confirmation biases, or when it does hit our confirmation biases, and it does a direct opposite, then we try to figure out like how and why. I still don't know what this one. I still don't know why. APT, when I see this long-term chart, same thing, 50, 100, 200. I really thought it was going to go higher. I don't know what happened. These two. CTBI, trash. Trash. I don't know. I think me is just stubbornness. Those three stocks were stocks, and it was a sketchy Chinese company. So like even that's even a bigger learning lesson for me. Like I didn't have to trust it. And like another learning lesson with me is that I bought this stupid ass stock during the pre-market hour. That is something I never really do. That is something I don't do. I do not buy stocks in the pre-market. If I had bought this, it should have been the night beforehand. If I bought this the night beforehand and watched it settle where it did, it settled like after it spiked, it settled right around here at this 360-ish area, and then going into the market, going into the pre-market, it ran up to $6 before coming back down. That is what I should have done. What I did was buying this when the market, when before the market opened, and then watch it end up falling right back down and having to hurry up and panic sell. So I ended up losing, was $1.30 on this one. So it was all a matter of getting, between CTBI, which was outside of my trading pattern and strategy, AHPI, which was also out of stubbornness because I didn't sell into the spike or sell into strength, and APT, which I also did not sell into strength the second time I bought it because I was being greedy after I bought it the first time and made money. Besides those three plays, everything else has been pretty much, all the other plays were really good. Like I stuck to my plan. I cut my losses when they came. I was a little impatient on one, but overall, like everything else was really good, and I showed profit for the week, which is even more better. More better, yeah, more better, yeah. So whatever it is, for whatever it's worth, I was able to earn just a little bit more this past week. I think I earned a little closer to 700 this past week. So, I took some hits, which I shouldn't have. So with those hits, probably could have put me a little bit over, closer to maybe 1100, maybe 1200. But either way, I've learned from those, and I'm gonna make sure I apply it for this upcoming week. So that's what I have for the trading week of June 22nd to the 26th. So if you have any questions, leave them in the chat box below. I will do another video that will talk about my this overnight strategy, particularly with EMAs, and hopefully this EMA hack will continue to go because it's causing a lot of spikes in the market. So without any other words, I'm letting go. Thank you for listening. Sorry I started to get tired towards the end. I didn't even think this was going to go an hour long, but hey, there was a lot of stocks I needed to go over. I've been doing a lot of yoga. My body's tired. My mind is right, but my pockets are getting thick. So we're going to keep it going. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.